everybody. I'm here now over the city of Trieste in Italy, where I'm based for a while now this spring 2019. And welcome to see the third part of my series of videos about the crop circles of 2017 and 18 and their very special alignments with the airports, train stations and other landmarks of the British landscape. In this third part of the series, I'm going to concentrate mainly on the connections between the crop circles, the airports and particularly the Great Pyramid of Giza and the star system Orion, which has been associated with the pyramid and Egyptian structures before. So in the previous videos I was talking about this specific triangle that was repeating several times in the alignments of the 2017 crop circles. I also discovered that this triangle was originally formed between the London airports Luton, Heathrow and Gatwick, and that it had something to do with the Great Pyramid of Giza as well. It was not just that the crop circles and airports were aligned through this triangle, but also my movements in England from one point to another and the movements of our group that I was leading together with my associate. As I pointed out, these alignments were far too accurate to be just coincidental. So there was clearly some kind of connection from people's choices to the appearance of crop circles, or vice versa, the forces behind the crop circles maybe affected our choices. Now we're going to look much more into the pyramid connection and also towards the star constellation Orion and the star Sirius. As I said in the previous part, the ratio between the two sides of the triangle in question is 9:8, which is the ratio of the whole tone in music. And actually, when the angle between these two sides is 141.5 degrees, this is the pyramid angle plus 90 degrees, then the third side is 16 in ratio to the others 9 and 8. So it's twice the length of the shortest side. I personally visited the King's Chamber in 2007 and I became convinced that it was an acoustic chamber of some sort. And I actually believe that the entire pyramid or one of its functions was to act as an instrument to sound out certain frequencies, maybe not only in sound but in other vibrations that were somehow useful and powerful for the people, for the environment, for the culture, and possibly the resonance of the pyramid was controlled by leading water into the grand gallery. I had an opportunity to stay alone in the King's Chamber for about 15 minutes, and during that time I was experimenting with sounds, mainly singing myself, and I was completely overwhelmed by the amazing acoustics of this space. The first crop circle we visited with another group in 2018, last summer, was the one in Conybury in Amesbury near Stonehenge. It was the shape of the warning sign for chemical weapons and clearly referring to the sad incidents of Salisbury last summer. Although one might easily conclude such a design is a work of people, perhaps some Greenpeace activists or alike, witnessing the formation on the spot left me very impressed. This particular crop circle turn out to be one of the key points of an elaborate structure made of many crop circles in the 2018 season. Once again, I discovered a path of 3 points forming a triangle with exactly the same angle as before, 141.5 degrees. However, now the two sides around this angle were in proportions 7:4 instead of 9:8. And again, when you place this triangle inside the pyramid vertically like this, it divides the slope of the pyramid in the ratio of 9:20, whereas the triangle of the previous year produced a ratio of 9:13. It's interesting to notice that the numbers 9, 13 and 20 are the key numbers in the Mayan calendar system. The Coneybury crop circle happens to be on the same latitude with the Gatwick airport, a key place in the alignments of last year. When a line is drawn from Gatwick to the northmost crop circle in Harbury, clearly isolated from all the other circles, we get the exact angle of the Great Pyramid. Now, when I discovered this intriguing feature, I was curious to find any further matches with the diagram of the pyramid placed over the map of England. The new 7:4 triangle repeats very many times in the alignments of the crop circles, but also, together with other alignments with the crop circles and airports, match with many details of the pyramid structure. Here you can see a very special alignment. When we draw a line from London Victoria to the Coneybury crop circle, again the one near Stonehenge, it exactly passes the lower right corner of the Grand Gallery and then finds its way to one more crop circle. As we can see in this picture, the Coneybury circle really is an important hotspot. If we follow the slope of the alleged air channel, not only does it pass through the center of the antechamber again, but also passes through this cluster of circles and very accurately through the Lockeridge Formation of 2017 and the Alton Barnes Whitehorse, again a location that was important last year. This red line runs through 2 train stations in Reading and 3 crop circles. Then, when a line is drawn from the antechamber to the corner of the Grand Gallery, it is aligned with the slope of the gallery. This, of course, is a feature of the pyramid alone, but there is also this line from London Victoria that meets the corner. And what makes this really interesting is that when another line is drawn from this crop circle at the base of the pyramid, it creates the angle of this corner of the gallery. During a particular meditation last December, I received an intuition that told me to see if the star constellation Orion and the star Sirius were somehow connected to the crop circles of 2018. Well, it just happens that the angle between Orion's belt and the star Bellatrix in the upper right corner of Orion is again 141.5 degrees. And when this angle and its proportions are fitted inside the pyramid like this, it matches with one of the previous alignments of the crop circles. I further discovered that the upper leftmost star, the brightest star of Orion, Betelgeuse, forms a 90-degree angle with the belt of Orion. The distance from the star Mintaka in Orion's belt to Betelgeuse is 1.41 times the distance from Mintaka to Bellatrix, and not only does 1.41 remind us of the angle of 141.5 degrees, but it's also the square root of 2. So an important figure in geometry. Now here I have placed the profile of the Great Pyramid on the Mintake-Betelgeuse line to match with Bellatrix, and upside down to match with Betelgeuse. Following the pyramid slope here, we end up to Sirius, which is pretty amazing. So there are these several strangely accurate geometrical features in the Orion-Sirius system alone, and even more so when connected with the pyramid shape. This series of pictures reveals how the Orion Triangle and the 2018 Blue Triangle are related to each other inside the pyramid. Now let's take one more careful look at some of the interesting ratios and angles of the pyramid and how that all relates to the London airports. Now here is something I haven't yet mentioned. When you take half of the width of the pyramid base as 1, then the slope of the pyramid by length is quite exactly phi, the golden mean, which turned into a decimal number is about 1.618. And the height of the pyramid is the square root of phi according to Pythagoras' theorem. Then, when you draw a line from the corner to meet the slope at right angle, the length of this line is half of pi, that is 1.57. It also divides the slope into segments of 0.3666 and 1.2, which as fractions are 11 to 30 and 5 to 4. Now let's again take the 2017 triangular path, the one defined by the 3 airports, with the proportions 9 to 8, and match it inside the pyramid like this. This shape very accurately aligns with the top of the construction above the King's Chamber, as you can see. Then let's also add the 2018 path with the proportions 7 to 4 in a similar fashion. We can now observe 2 ratios compared to the measurements of the pyramid: half of the golden mean and 2/3 or 0.666. So this line here is 1/3 of the base of the pyramid in length. Here I've placed the upper half of Orion upside down over the pyramid to show how beautifully it aligns with the previous construction and neatly produces the ratio of 3 to 8. Even the star Betelgeuse is very exactly positioned along one of the main lines. Next, we move to the airports. The green line leading from Gatwick, which is in the corner of the pyramid here, to the South End airport is in right angle to the pyramid slope, and its length compared to the half base is again phi divided by 2. Now, the next observation is pretty amazing. I must remind you that this is something that is true without any pyramids or crop circles. The distance between Luton and Southend airports is equal to the distance between Luton and Gatwick airports, and also from Southend to the middle of Heathrow airport. This distance is again compared to the pyramid 0.88 or 8 divided by 9. So here we have again many times this 8 to 9 or 9 to 8 ratio of the musical whole tone. When we take the same distance along the pyramid slope to create this isosceles triangle marked in red, the shortest side is 1/4 of phi in length, so half of the distance between Gatwick and Southend Airport. Finally, when we continue the Southend Luton line to meet the pyramid slope, we come up with the length of half phi once again. Furthermore, the length of the thick green line here from Gatwick to this new point up here is exactly 1.5, so 3/2 as fraction. So what about Stansted Airport then? Does it fit this pattern at all? Well, it certainly is not a random location. First, we can notice that the distance from Southend to Stansted is exactly 0.5. Then a line drawn from Stansted to Heathrow Terminal 5, which is the westmost terminal, produces a right angle and a distance of 0.75 or 3/4. And again, all these values are relative to the pyramid base. So not only do we have a very regular shape formed by the Heathrow, Stansted and Southend airports, but also a very clear connection to the pyramid in this setup. So this is quite a lot of stuff to digest, and you see there is now this new, maybe not even so new anymore, this view of the world that all this stuff that we see and perceive around us is actually just information, and we encode this information into visions and sounds and senses, and underlying this information there is a specific structure, and in my opinion this structure is not bits and bytes, so zeros and ones, but it's encoded in the sacred language of geometry. And somehow people are guided to act upon these geometrical principles to move and build their temples and airports and palaces and whatever in places that are some kind of node points regarding to the sacred geometrical structures. I don't believe that we people are just passive observers of the crop circle phenomenon, but not only do we, or some people, physically go out there in the fields to make crop circles, but also through our actions and our thoughts we affect the whereabouts, the designs of the crop circles and when they appear. This is not necessarily to say that there is an alien presence somewhere there monitoring our thoughts and actions and then acting upon them. But it could also be that there is this kind of more like a collective field of consciousness that we are tapping into unwittingly, and then making these things or affecting these things with our consciousness, our thoughts. And then we also are guided into certain places in certain times to participate events, and when as these events unfold, the marks that are left, in this case the crop circles, they appear in places that somehow resonate with this geometrical fabric that is behind the reality. And the builders of the ancient structures in these ancient cultures, they were somehow in tune with this reality and these facts, either so that they actually intentionally were following these certain kind of rules of geometry, or possibly in a more spiritual way they were meditating and doing rituals to find the correct paths and the correct locations, the correct ways and times of doing things. So now in this time we can find these correlations between our contemporary structures, structures of importance like cathedrals, churches, but also places where lots of people are concentrated like airports and train stations. And these locations somehow are involved in the creation of these phenomena. And now that we find this structure of the Great Pyramid kind of encoded in the British landscape, it doesn't necessarily mean that the circle makers intentionally want us to perceive the pyramid in England or the structure, the alignments of the pyramid, but it may also be that they are just repeating the same geometrical principles that the pyramid builders were tuned into, and hence we seem to have apparently this connection from the crop circles to the pyramid, but it's also possible that we have a connection from the crop circles and from the pyramid separately into something else that is behind all this. So these are some of my thoughts, and I'll be interesting to hear and read your comments, so you can leave them below. And of course, if you like these videos, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and don't miss my previous videos about crop circles and other fascinating things on my channel. And this is Veli Martin Keitel from Trieste, Italy, saying goodbye for now until next time. Enjoy and have a good time.